Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Reuters Newsmaker. My name is Lisa Jucca. I'm the European business editor of Reuters Breakingviews, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Benedetto Vigna, Chief Executive Officer of Ferrari. Benedetto, welcome.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm delighted to be with you and all your guests. It's a pleasure.
So Ferrari obviously doesn't need much introduction since it's one of the world's best known brands. But just as a reminder, we're talking about a company with 47 billion euros of market capitalization, which posted record revenue actually, of 5 billion euros last year, and which has been manufacturing high-end sports car in Italy since 75 years. Benedetto took the helm in 2021 after 26 years at chip maker ST Microelectronics, and has been steering Ferrari into a new world where it can hopefully maintain its high profitability, but also become a greener car producer. So I would like really to start the conversation with the green mobility challenge, green challenge that Ferrari faces. Benedetto, as you know, as we speak, there's been quite interesting developments in Brussels, because the European Union has for years been discussing the possibility of actually stopping new combustion car engines in Europe after 2035, but there was a breakthrough agreement this weekend which introduces the possibility of also using e-fuels. So I would really like to hear from you. I mean, what is your view of the viability of adopting e-fuels, for combustion engines in Europe? Is this something that can be adopted at scale after this landmark deal, or will it remain maybe a niche market with electric vehicles, becoming the main source of energy for cars going forward?
Thank you, Lisa. This is indeed a very interesting question. And I have to say that, we had a very interesting weekend, the last one. And this weekend, what has been decided that the e-fuel can be used also, let me say, in the future. If you want, is a confirmation of the strategy, of electrification strategy that we announced last Capital Market Day in June. What we said clearly at that time is that our company will go ahead with the three propulsion scheme, the ICE, with the hybrid and the electric. So these news from Europe of this weekend are a confirmation that our plan to manage the technology transition, the energy transition, is a good one. And if you want, I've been managing a technology transition many times in my career, and I have never seen a digital switching happening. So very good news for us after this very interesting weekend.
Okay, so maybe let us understand a little bit better how the new rules, will affect Ferrari in particular, because Ferrari is a small car producer. You make 12,500 vehicles per year, more or less at the moment. So, we're not talking about the mass car producers that make millions, of vehicles per year. So this particular changes, I mean, do they affect Ferrari, or would you have some sort of exception, or carve out because you are a small maker of cars?
The discussion before this weekend were already classifying us as a small volume manufacturers, because we are producing more than 10,000 worldwide, but we are producing less. We are selling less than 10,000 in Europe. So if you want, the good news for us as a company in the weekend is that on top of the electric cars, we will be able also to go ahead with our ICE, because let's say the technology in Ferrari has been always something that we have been using to provide unique experience to our client. So in June last year, we said we will continue developing very new engine on ICE, and now with the e-fuel, well, this can allow us also greater freedom on the propulsion scheme. So I think really, Lisa, this is something I think we were already in a good position before because we had until 2036 to go ahead with our ICE. This decision is very interesting for us because it allows also the ICE to go beyond 2036. And in any case, the message is that we don't want to impose any propulsion scheme. It is not nice for us to tell the customer, the client, which car to use. We want to make available the 3 kinds of propulsion to our client, and they will select.
Okay, so let's remind our viewers that at the strategy meeting that you mentioned, the Capital Markets Day, you had set a certain target for models, right? So for 2030, if I'm not mistaken, you had 40% of models electric, 40% hybrid, and 20% combustion engines. This is like in 2030, more or less. So I'm kind of interested in understanding, you know, how this decision and the debate at the moment maybe changes your vision beyond that. So does it mean that maybe this division, this balance, let's say, is going to stay like this going forward, or will we have still more electric cars? Because, you know, the focus up until now for the industry has been to push, you know, ahead with electric. So interested in understanding, you know, how the balance of models is affected, you know, by this development.
No change, Lisa. We said the 40-40-20, as you said, the 40 electric, 40 hybrid, and 20 ICE. We stick to our plan. And if you want, already in June, we were embedding the idea to keep alive with ICE. So we stick with our plan and we go ahead along this direction. If something else will happen the next years, we'll see. But our plan is the plan of the 16 June 2022. Exactly that one.
But give us a sense of, you know, how these technologies fit, you know, depending on the model that, you know, is being used. So, I mean, e-fuels, okay, there is a debate on whether they will become cheaper in the future. At the moment, you know, some say they're more expensive, but, you know, potentially will become cheaper. So I'm just trying to understand whether you know, maybe electric models will be maybe the entry models, while the e-fuels will be for the supercars, which maybe need more sort of power, you know, the sound of the roaring engine. You know, how should we look at those technologies? You know, which one is best fit for which model?
Look, don't think about specific model using specific fuel. Okay, this would be a wrong assumption. What I can tell you is that when we design a Ferrari, we keep in consideration 3 important pillars. So we start from this, and then the technology is a consequence of this choice. Which are the 3 pillars? First of all is the design. The second one are the performances, and technology, quality, fuel, electric is a way to provide this kind of performance level. And the third one that is very, very important for our car is the emotion to drive. Let's say the emotion that the driver experience when it is in the car. These are the 3 things we keep in mind. Now, if the technology is A, B, or C, if the fuel is A, B, or C, well, this is a consequence. We start from the emotion we want to deliver to our client. And then as a consequence, all happens. Coming back to the other part of your question, it's true today, the e-fuel are a little bit more expensive, or let me say, from the numbers that you can read are from 2 to 7 euro per liter. It's also true on the other side that is a new technology. And like all the new technologies, there is time to become cheaper. What is important for me is that in our company, we made this decision to go ahead with the 3 propulsion scheme, and we will use the technology always in a way unique to inspire and to pass those thrilling emotions to our client. That's the key, Lisa. The rest is functional to this.
Okay, but just as a follow-up, I mean, since two things I would say. I mean, on one hand, as you just mentioned, you know, these fuels are at the moment more expensive than regular fuels. So does it mean they're best fit for the sort of higher end of the market, you know, where consumers are maybe less conscious about, less price conscious? That's the first question. And the second, what about the investment level for automakers? So automakers are already investing a lot to, you know, push into the electric mobility. So if we also have e-fuel as an alternative, does it mean investments go up?
Okay, let's start from the second one. Clearly, let's say we highlighted it. We said how much money, how much is the capex we want, and we are going to dedicate to the execution of the strategy we laid down in June last year. In those capex was already included the development that is needed for our engine on ICE that is using any fuel, and e-fuel is something that is compatible with the ICE, the combustion engine. So the number that I gave in June, 4.4 billion euro as a capex over the period 22-26 is something that keeps alive over there. It's enough for us to go ahead with electrification and also with the ICE that is compatible with the e-fuel. The first part of your question was about the investment needed for you know, the e-fuel and the price and what are the consequences. I think that the e-fuel that is taking the hydrogen of the water and the carbon of the atmosphere and putting them together, with this new approval, I think it can receive a boost from the energy suppliers because, let's say, it's clear that for all the technology, as it has been happening all over the humankind history, when you start to do things, you learn how to do things, and then the price can go down. Clearly, if you want, we, being and acting in this sector, we have an advantage to access a little bit more expensive fuel. But I also believe that this e-fuel over the time, and there are different articles on this, the price can go down. We are working with, on one side, the startup, on the other side, the big players, to make sure that we are keeping the pace of this technology development, because as we said, it's important for us to provide and to be updated and to be on the leading edge of any technologies that is available for the cars.
I mean, if you look at the industry as a whole, however, does this deal mean that the combustion engine supply chain, you know, which is very developed in countries like Germany and Italy and Europe, for instance, does it mean it kind of saved? Or are we still going to have a situation where a large part of the cars, you know, on the ground will eventually be electric?
I mean, I don't know how the big car OEM are going to see it. What I believe, and I like this kind of, let me say, intermediate step, is that in all the technology transition, usually the transition is not digital. Okay, so the way I see it also for our world is that you will have a coexistence of two technologies that also from, if you want, from the ability of the industry to manage this situation and this transition, it's easier. So the point of view of our, of the colleague that are delivering millions of cars, I think they are better entitled than me to reply. For me, if I see the technology transition overall, is a good point to see this transition phase. So this is good for us. It's really good.
Maybe one last question about this kind of alternative fuels. I mean, we are focusing on e-fuels, and you told us that Ferrari could use them. Would Ferrari also be able to use biofuels, you know, under this revised, let's say, legislation, or is that a complete different topic and different matter?
Look, Lisa, the point is that we care about the gasoline that is fitting in the car. If the gasoline is coming from the oil underground, or from the bio over the ground, or from the, if you want, from the carbon in the atmosphere, we want to make sure it's important for us that the gasoline has the right composition, the right number of octane to deliver the power we need. The engine we have and we will have will be able to be compliant with these technologies. As I said, the idea of the e-fuel that is carbon neutral, because you deliver out of the tailpipe the same amount of carbon that you take from the atmosphere, it's something that is good from an ecological point of view, and it is supporting even more our strategy of last June. This is the point.
Thank you. Maybe one more question on this issue of green mobility before moving on to other topic that I'd love to discuss with you, Benedetto. I mean, you've already told us that you will unveil the first fully electric model in 2025, which is practically around the corner. Can we get a sense of again, where will you start from? Whether it's, more entry level, or maybe, Ferrari starts experimenting with, high-end tailor-made models, for its electrification journey?
First of all, Lisa, I mean, we know a little bit, but I would like to say that I hear a lot of times the word Ferrari and mobility using together. No, we are not talking about mobility. Okay, this is true for other big companies, not for us. When you talk about Ferrari, you talk about a car that is unique and want to deliver unique driving emotion to our client. So we don't care. Allow me to say, it's not a functional car that is addressing the mobility needs. Coming to this, I would like to share with you today what we plan to unveil in 2025. But as a luxury company, and in a luxury, keeping the secret what we are doing is part, if you want, of the recipe. And thanks God, you cannot read in my memory, otherwise you would see what is impressed in my brain. So this will be, I can tell you, a unique car. A unique because we are addressing in a unique way the way we generate energy, the way we reduce losses, so on the technical performances, but also the way we deliver the experience to our client when it's sitting in the car, when it's moving with the car. So it will be a unique Ferrari that will address all the dimensions on the technical side, on the emotional side, and also on the design side. That's what I can tell you today. So I don't want to say which kind of Ferrari will be. It is a unique Ferrari.
Okay, Benedetto, I mean, I forgot to mention to the audience at the beginning that there is a possibility to ask questions, through Slido, but I can already see that a few questions are coming through. There's one that I want to ask you because it's relevant to our conversation. I mean, obviously, the Ferrari name is linked to the Formula One word as well, very strongly linked. I mean, one person is asking, how will the green transition impact Formula One vehicles? We've spoken about, regular cars, I mean, although high-end, but, what about Formula One vehicles? How
Formula One, it's already decided that from 2026 onward, the synthetic fuel will be used over there. Today, the content of non-natural fuel is lower. So if you want, Formula One is a good platform to develop new technologies that then can migrate from the restricted world of racing to the wider world of sport cars. And we, as a company, having both souls on our company, we can benefit of what we learn in Formula One, and we can transfer this to our sports car on the road. So if you want this concept from track to road, it applies in general. You develop technologies in a smaller set. And in particular, if you want, it allows to us, because we have the two souls on our under one only umbrella. So this is the way I would reply to you. Thanks for your question.
Okay, just moving ahead, because obviously we've spoken a lot about the green transition, but Ferrari operates also in a macro context, which today is particularly challenging. So just wanted to ask you how you're navigating that context. So the last 2-3 weeks we've had, for instance, very turbulent market situation, with a couple of bank crisis. I mean, Credit Suisse was just pushed into a takeover by UBS here in Europe. So when the market are so turbulent and there are questions about the financial stability, how does Ferrari rethink, for instance, liquidity management? Are you diversifying bank relationships? I mean, are you taking particular steps, to address the current turbulence?
Look, let's start from the second part, the story of the liquidity and, if you want, the Swiss Russian you were referring to. Well, clearly, I'm in close contact with Antonio, the CFO of the company, and the way we manage the liquidity is in two ways. Through, number one, diversification of the banks, and number two, looking carefully at the rating our brands. We have a specific policy we comply with, where we have to select banks that have, let me say, a high rating. This is on a specific, if you want, situation that we've been facing in the last, if you want, hours. When it comes instead to a broader picture, if you see the result of 22 with the COVID and the war and the shortages have been possible because the team in Ferrari has been able to manage well, if you want, with agility, all these different situations. And I think that in the future, and this is, if you want, is an interesting indicator. In the future, the only things we are sure of is that there will be a continuous change. So the teams that are able to cope with agility, with flexibility, to address with a good teamwork this situation will be able to survive. I think we in the company demonstrated 2022 that has been a challenging year. It has been addressed properly with the new team that I set up end of 2021. So let's proceed, let's continue to work with the same determination, and that's what we will do. There is not, if you want, a set of rules to follow, because we have to be agile to be able to address them properly. So far, the company has been able to address. We have the team is determined, and I think has also the competences to address the future challenge. We have always to be on the other side, Lisa, to be humble, humile, if you want, with in a confident way, so that we take any change seriously and we adapt and we learn. Continuous learning in a situation that is fast moving. This is the key.
Absolutely. There are a number of challenges, I would say. Maybe I'll list a couple of others, because I'm interested, in maybe getting a sense of how you're dealing with some of the others. So another challenge is the inflation, for instance.
Yeah.
So we had it last year, still here. Energy prices are up, raw material prices are up. Obviously, you are in a business which has pricing power, but how far can your pricing power go? How far before, how much can you pass on without hitting your margins, which I remember, you have a target for EBITDA margin of 38%, which is quite, ambitious. So, how do you deal with the inflation?
Look, you said well, inflation is definitely an area of extreme attention. And inflation is an area that is touching everyone. It does not matter if you are in a business or in another. So clearly, we are also touched by it. Now, the degree with which we are touched may be different. But if you look, last year, there has been, if you want, the inflation touched a lot the gas, the energy price. That today, if you want, seems to be a little bit in a better situation. The raw material was there and is there. And this year, we have also in addition the labor cost, because the labor cost, many companies all over the world have been touching also the salary to cope, to allow their employee to cope with increased cost of living. I think that what we did last year and what we plan to do this year, that means a price increase in the range of 4 to 5%, is going in this direction. Clearly, I want to underline, Lisa, this price increase is not only meant for the inflation, is also meant, allow me to say, for the emotion that we address and we deliver to our client. I mean, we are in the luxury space. In the luxury space, the pricing is defined by the emotion that we deliver to our client is not a cost plus approach for defining the pricing. So this is very, very important.
Okay. Maybe one other challenge, that I mentioned to you, and I would be interested in hearing, are you dealing with it? We are in the middle of a global trade war. I mean, let's face it, there's antagonism between the United States and China in particular, apart from the fact that we have a physical war, unfortunately, in Ukraine. But, there's a lot of discussion about securing the supply chain, in particular when it comes to, for instance, EV batteries, which, that supply chain is dominated by China, as everyone knows. So how are you ensuring, that your supply chain is secure, that you're not too dependent from a player that may be caught in the middle of this trade war?
Look, I would say that our supply chain for 2/3 is based, let me say, in Europe and in US. I have to say that when it comes to supply base that is not, let me say, on the Western side, we make sure that there is always a solution that is, let me say, a backup solution, allow me to say in this way. And when we have our tier one that are using critical suppliers in a specific part of the world, well, we always make sure we go to see the tier 2, tier 3 are properly, let me say, are managing properly the security of supply. So, last year, you remember, no, there were many chip shortages. The team, if you want, is a specific fact. We have been able to manage all the situation. And believe me, several times these chips were coming also from, let me say, from China. So it's not easy. It requires some effort, but I think we are having a plan that we are following to make sure that as we delivered last year, we will deliver in the year to come. This is the plan, Lisa.
Okay. Benedetto, final mention of the challenge, of the risk, that your company and others are managing and facing today, and this is the cyber risk, that I'm quite interested in. I mean, your company revealed just a few days ago that you've been subject to a ransomware attack. Obviously, you're not the only one. I mean, there are data showing that, this type of attacks have gone up 40% year on year last year from the previous one. So it's a real issue. So what have you learned from this situation? But also, does it mean that, this is a cost risk basically for your company, other companies, because, these attacks are becoming more frequent and more aggressive?
Look, the digital world is becoming, by definition, less limited than the physical world, okay? So if you want the firewall, the wall to protect the city like in the past, cannot be so easy to be erected. So what does it mean? It means that for me, there are two ways to manage this situation. And I have to say that I am very proud of how the team in the company managed this situation, as well also what is been the answer and the reaction of our clients. Because there are two ways, as I said. Number one, open and transparent when these things happen, and to manage the situation with the client. I mean, we sent an email to our client telling them what happened and explaining also our plan of action. The second is that when these things happen, instead to pay the ransom and to feed more and more this kind of criminal act, because that's what we are talking about, well, we want, and we are partnering with state-of-the-art companies that enable to make our wall around the city, around Maranello, stronger and stronger. So again, here, Lisa, is the same point. The hackers, if you want, are keep improving, and they want to find a small hole in our wall, a small hole in our wall. It's up to us to make sure that we are learning fast, we are making sure the wall are well secured, and then to manage the situation with the agility, the flexibility, and the openness that is important for the business, and also to keep a transparent relation with our client. This is the key, Lisa, because you know, the cyber world is very blurred.
Absolutely. I'm going to turn now to a couple of questions from the audience, because, you know, our viewers want to get maybe a better understanding of who is the Ferrarista nowadays. So, you know, I have one person asking to what extent, you know, your targeted customer base is sensitive to, for instance, responsible sourcing of the material that you're using, you know, and how are you adapting to those requests, if there are?
It's a very good question. I have to say that in our event, we see more and more our, let me say, Ferraristi coming with their younger son or daughters. So, and I had the pleasure to talk with several of them about this, let me say, attention to green. And I have to say that last year, when we said we want to be carbon neutral by end of this decade, it was also to take in consideration clearly all the inputs that we see around us, but also we see from our client. I believe that for a company like ours, a luxury company, we have to address, as we say, the 3P, the planet, the profit, and the people. And I think that the Ferrarista, and I have to say that now after 19 months I am in this company, I know many of them, they like a lot all what we are doing in terms of sustainability. The sustainability is becoming more and more important. And what we are doing in Maranello, as well as with our supplier, as well as on the product, well, is very much well seen and appreciated by our Ferrarista. Clearly, having a lot of clients, there are different perceptions from the different clients, no? They do not all share. But in average, okay, all the effort that our company is doing toward a greener world, all what we are doing, even with the creation of Bosco Ferrari, because we started in 12 October 2022, specific date, as you can, as you know. Well, all these activities are very much appreciated by our Ferraristi of different ages.
Can you give us a sense, you know, of who is or how the Ferrarista has changed? I mean, obviously, it's probably a diverse clientele, but the feeling many have, and I have, is that maybe a few years ago it was predominantly male of a certain age. Maybe nowadays is a different crowd. So can you, you know, in order to understand your sensitivity, can you give us a sense who these people are?
So I'll give a few numbers, but I will be very more specific. So who is a Ferrarista? Ferrarista is as an average age of 50 years. Okay? And it's interesting to note that if you take the Ferraristi that are buying ICE cars or the Ferraristi buying the hybrid, the number is the same. We're talking about a difference of 1 month. Okay? So this is the average age. If I go to talk about the younger, the new Ferraristi that joined us, our family, in the last 4 years, I'm talking about 15,000 new Ferraristi that joined our family, our community, in the last 4 years, since 2018. Well, we are talking about a community that is 8 years younger, with a lot of female drivers. We're talking about 25%. And also we are saying another interesting number, 40% of our new customers are younger than 40 years old. So this is the pictures, if you want, of our Ferraristi. Maybe another important point is that this kind of metric is valid also a little bit across all the geographies. We don't have any geographical pattern. The only things we can say is that in China, there is a higher percentage of women, also because in the other part of the world, very often the name is registered under the name of the men, but used by the women. We have also other cases, we have both cases, but I remember, I can tell you this, Lisa, when we launched the car in Tuscany in September, it was the beautiful Puro Sangue. We invited the client with their partners, and many times they wanted all to buy two of them because each one of them can have their own cars. So if you want the strategy we said, different Ferrari for different Ferraristi and different Ferrari for different moments, that is the strategy that we are following, is what is also driving, let me say, this kind of Ferraristi. So this is the picture of Ferraristi, Lisa.
No, absolutely. Do you also have a different Ferrari for different geographies? Maybe the demands are slightly different, you know, in Asia, South America, or not so much?
No. We say different Ferrari for different moments because the same client want to have a 296 GTB, more on the sports side, and the Roma, more on the, let me say, on the gentleman driver side. But a different Ferrari for different Ferraristi, because you have a Ferraristi that like one car instead of another. I like to be more on the track side, for example, while I know friends that are more on the road side. Different Ferrari for different geography, we never said it does not apply. Because, as I said, this kind of client is more or less, picture is more or less the same through all the countries where we are selling our car.
There's another audience question, which is interesting on a topic we haven't yet touched. And this is about the development of self-driving cars. So could self-driving cars be an option for Ferrari?
I will reply with a fact. A few months ago, the CEO of a company that was developing an autonomous car came to visit me. He's an old friend of mine. Then I told, you know what? Why don't we go to try a Ferrari on the circuit here in Fiorano? When we drove the Ferrari, then he get out of the car, he said, Benedetto, I understand. You don't need this kind of technology. What I mean is that having an autonomous Ferrari is a no sense. You may have autonomous for function, like supporting the driving, but having a Ferrari that is autonomous is removing the emotion that the client want to try when you are driving the car. So this is the reason why, let's say, self-driving car is good for the bigger, for other customer maybe, but it's not for Ferrari.
Understood. So maybe for buses, and other type of vehicles, but not for Ferrari. We're getting towards the end of our fascinating conversation. There's still a couple of questions I want to ask you. In particular, I really want to discuss the lifestyle experience strategy, which you also have as part of your business vision. So, I mean, lifestyle is a combination of things. I mean, you have fashion shows, you have a museum, there's maybe, experiences. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's local theme parks. So what is the purpose of this diversification? Is it really, creating a new and solid revenue stream, or just marketing?
No. We don't do things to do that. So number one.
There's nothing wrong with marketing, definitely.
No. Look, we are determined to succeed in what we do. So let's say, for the sake of everyone, in our company, there are, if you want, three areas. There is the racing, where the roots of our company lie. Then there is the sports cars that we've been talking a lot during this this conference call. And the last part is that we started a few years ago is the lifestyle. So why we want to do this? This is your question. Today, we have a deep and strong emotional connection with a very large community. I'm talking about the fan. And this is all the racing fan that we have across the world, the brand admirers, and also the car owners. What we want to do, we want to grow even further this reach. We want to strengthen it. This is the point. We want to strengthen and to grow. And we want to do with addressing three clear pillars in this lifestyle. We are talking about the personal luxury goods, either hard or soft. The soft are the one that you see in our fashion show. The hard are the one that we are doing with our partner, call it Montblanc, call it Richard Mille, the watches. The experience, I'm talking about the experience, the restaurant in Maranello, the museum in Maranello and Modena. Last year, we had more than 620,000 fan, or let me say, Ferraristi family members that are visiting our two beautiful museum. And then there is the part of collectibles that is a good synthesis of craftsmanship, of the innovation, of all, let's say, the beauty that is getting in the car. So lifestyle as three pillars. Lifestyle is important because has the potential to grow even further the reach of our large community. This is the point, Lisa.
I hear you, but it's a very sort of diverse, it's a big diversification, let's say, from your core business of making cars. So I wonder whether, some may think that this, could pose a management distraction. When, for instance, are we gonna potentially see meaningful revenue from this extra pillar?
Look, it is not a management distraction. We have a clear a team that is fully dedicated to this activity. We have been able to attract with our strong brand top talent from this industry. And I think this is something, if you want, that makes a difference between us going from the sport car to this lifestyle business versus other companies that tried in the past. The strong brand we have is able to attract top talent. We've been able to rationalize the licenses that we had in the past. We have been able to also rationalize the network of our stores. We have been able to identify some areas where it makes to invest with patience. Yes, because these are not things that happen from day to night. I fully agree with you, with Lisa. And also, we say that in these 5 years, till 2026, 4 years now, we want to double the revenues that we had in this pillar before the COVID. It's not, let me say, an aggressive target. It's something that we believe is reachable. We are on track to make it happen. And as I said, there are clear, tangible milestone that we achieved, that we plan to achieve in this period.
Okay, well, thank you. Maybe I'll, since I have still a couple of minutes, I'll end with one very short question. You are at the head of a brand, which prides itself for exclusivity. How many cars can you make per year, obviously, while still retaining that exclusivity, which is kind of key to the brand?
You said well, Lisa. Is a luxury. We are a luxury brand. We want always to sell one car less than what the market demands, and I believe that there is no better way to keep desirable a product than selling less than what they want. And okay, but if you think.
If I say 15,000, and am I off mark, or is that?
Let's say you know what we said, what we sold last year. We said also that the growth will be in the single-digit side, so you can make your own math. What I want to tell you is that we want to keep always high the exclusivity. We want always to keep high the desirability. Because we believe that in this luxury space, these are key ingredients. And that's the reason why, when we announced the Puro Sangue, we said we do not want to double the volume of the car we make with one model. Maximum 20% of our yearly volumes will be called puro sangue. I think this is very important. It's very important for us. We stick to sell one car less than the market demands.
Well, thank you, Benedetto. I mean, this was a long and fascinating conversation. I mean, thank you for being so on so many topics.
Thank you. Next time in person, Lisa. Next time in person.
That's a promise. Okay.
I don't like it digital.
Okay. Thank you to the viewers.
Ciao.
And see you hopefully soon. Ciao.
Thanks
bye-bye.
all. Ciao. Bye.